February 19th, 1945, 9 o'clock, Green Beach, Iwo Jima. From the fifth wave of landing craft, 8 modified M4A3 Sherman tanks rolled ashore, their turrets hiding a secret never before unleashed in war. Marines called them Zippo tanks after the dependable cigarette lighter. Japanese soldiers would know them as Hono no Kuruma chariots of fire. Each machine could throw a pressurized stream of napalm-thickened gasoline nearly 400 feet, a weapon born in hidden labs at Pearl Harbor and perfected for this very day. Beneath Iwo Jima's black volcanic sand, 21,000 defenders waited in a labyrinth of tunnels and concrete bunkers they believed invincible. They had watched Tarawa and Saipan and learned, let the enemy land, then kill him where he cannot strike back. But the weapon crawling up the beach would rewrite the rules of cave warfare. In hours, flame would flow like liquid water through those tunnels, consuming oxygen, shattering rock, and breaking not only positions, but morale. This is the story of the flame-throwing Shermans of Iwo Jima, how 8 tanks changed the very mathematics of battle, saving thousands of American lives and shattering the myth that courage alone could withstand modern fire. Beneath Iwo Jima's scorched black sands lay a fortress unlike anything U.S. Marines had faced. Its architect was Lieutenant General Tadamichi Kuribayashi, a seasoned strategist who had studied every American assault since Tarawa. From his command post 75 feet underground, he drafted Defense Order No. 1 on December 1, 1944. We shall not engage the enemy on the beaches. We shall allow him to land. We shall let him come to us, and we shall kill him from positions he cannot reach. The numbers behind this plan were staggering. Within just 8 square miles, Kuribayashi commanded 21,000 men hidden in 11 miles of tunnels that connected some 1,500 caves and pillboxes. Construction consumed months of brutal labor. At least 5,000 men dug in, choking sulfur fumes and temperatures of 30 to 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, able to work only 5-minute shifts before gas and heat drove them out. Some chambers were tiny cells for 3 or 4 soldiers. Others were underground halls holding hundreds of men. Mount Suribachi alone bristled with 7 levels of fortifications. Across the island, 800 concrete pillboxes with walls up to 4 feet thick guarded interlocking fields of fire. Every entrance was cut deep and narrow, 100-foot dogleg tunnels designed to defeat flamethrowers and satchel charges. Kuribayashi believed that by vanishing underground, he could make every foot of ground cost the Marines' blood. It was the most sophisticated defensive network of the Second World War, a fortress meant to bleed an invader dry. But in these calculations, one factor was missing: a secret American weapon that could send liquid fire flowing where bullets and bombs could not go. The weapon that would undo Kuribayashi's masterpiece of defense had been conceived 13 months earlier, far from Iwo Jima's black sand. On February 1, 1944, Marine tanks assaulting Roy and Namur in the Marshall Islands found Japanese bunkers that shrugged off direct hits from their 75mm guns. Satchel charges and portable flamethrowers limited to brief spurts of 40 to 60 feet could not breach the hardened tunnels. Desperation sparked invention. At Pearl Harbor's Navy Yard, Navy Seabees, the Chemical Warfare Service, and engineers from the Bureau of Ordnance began a secret collaboration. Their concept: transform a battle-damaged M4A3 Sherman into a machine that could hurl pressurized fire hundreds of feet. They called the conversion POACWSH-1, but to the Marines, it quickly became the Zippo tank. The technical leap was stunning. The 75mm main gun was replaced with a Mark I Navy flame projector fed by a mixture of gasoline thickened with napalm aluminum salts of naphthenic and palmitic acids, first perfected at Harvard in 1942. A bank of compressed gas propelled this burning liquid at 300 pounds per square inches, sustaining a continuous inferno for 55 to 80 seconds, 10 times longer than any man-portable weapon. Tests at Schofield Barracks in March 1944 astonished observers. Under perfect conditions, the new flame projector threw a solid rod of fire nearly 400 feet. In combat, 150 to 200 yards was realistic, still a revolutionary range. Even more lethal was the physics inside a cave. Napalm's sticky flow followed gravity, pouring down tunnels and around corners, burning at over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit and devouring oxygen until no life could survive. By early 1945, 8 of these fearsome machines, 4 in the 4th Tank Battalion, 4 in the 5th, were quietly loaded for the Iwo Jima invasion. No Japanese defender, however well hidden, had prepared for a tank that could turn an underground fortress into a furnace. February 21, 1945, 14:30 hours. 2 days of brutal fighting had left, Marines pinned beneath the volcanic slopes of Mount Suribachi. Hidden guns and sniper caves raked every advance. Conventional artillery and infantry tactics were failing, casualties mounted. From behind the black sand ridges, one of the new flamethrower Sherman's call sign, Satan, lurched forward. At 150 yards from a suspected cave entrance, the crew primed their Mark I projector. At 14:37, the gunner and the commander gave the signal. A column of liquid fire roared out, bright as molten metal, arcing hundreds of feet before slamming into the mountainside. Instantly, the burning stream poured down the concealed tunnel, twisting through its 100-foot entrance shaft and around the bends designed to stop ordinary flame. Observers described a low thunder as fuel followed every downward slope, filling the underground passages with 2,000-degree heat and choking smoke. Inside, oxygen vanished within seconds. Carbon monoxide spiked to lethal levels. Ammunition caches erupted in chain explosions, and entire chambers collapsed from thermal shock. Marines advancing behind the tank watched smoke and fire vent from hidden cracks all along the mountain, revealing tunnels never mapped. By nightfall, 47 cave positions on Suribachi's slopes lay neutralized, many without a single Marine casualty. A captured Japanese defensive manual later revealed why. It had only accounted for handheld flamethrowers with 10-second bursts and 20-meter reach. The long-range, minute-long inferno of the Zippo tank shattered every expectation. Within 48 hours, the 28th Marines planted the American flag on Suribachi's summit. The first combat use of flame tanks had not only broken a volcanic fortress, it had rewritten the playbook of cave warfare. By late February, the flamethrower Shermans were not merely a weapon, they had become a force of terror. Marine intelligence intercepts captured frantic Japanese messages. Request immediate countermeasures for enemy flame tanks. All units' flame tanks are priority targets. By February 23rd, many outposts were begging permission to retreat when a flame tank approached. The effects were unprecedented in the Pacific War. Entire cave networks were abandoned before the tanks even arrived. Positions that had taken months to carve out of volcanic rock were left stocked with food, ammunition, and water. Prisoners spoke of Oni no Hai, demon fire, and Ru no Iki, dragon's breath. Marines reported that some defenders surrendered outright, a break from the Bushido code that demanded death over capture. Flame tanks turned Kuribayashi's fortress into a psychological trap. Inside tunnels, the sudden rush of 2,000-degree fire-stripped oxygen and created instant darkness. Survivors recalled an unearthly roar, then the feeling that even the air itself was burning. Others described comrades fleeing deeper underground only to suffocate when the flames chased gravity into every chamber. By early March, Marine reports documented what they called cascade collapse of morale. At Motoyama Airfield No. 2 and the strongholds of Hills 382 and 362A, Japanese troops increasingly chose preservation over ritual death. The 216 prisoners taken at Iwo Jima Extraordinary for a battle of this scale proved how deeply fear of flame had cracked the warrior ethos. Kuribayashi's final intercepted message admitted the truth. Enemy flame tanks have neutralized our cave defenses. Positions requiring months to construct are destroyed in minutes. American technology has overcome the Japanese spirit. The chariots of fire had not only destroyed fortifications, they had broken the psychological backbone of an entire garrison. The victory on Iwo Jima was only the beginning. American planners studying the island's battle logs understood that the flame tank had changed the equation of cave warfare. The Joint Chiefs of Staff immediately requested mass production for the next invasion, Operation Downfall, the proposed assault on the Japanese home islands. Within weeks, new formations like the 713th Flame Tank Battalion were organized. When Marines stormed Okinawa on April 1, 1945, they brought a larger force of improved flamethrower, Shermans, supplied by forward fuel mixing stations and underground storage built by Seabees during combat itself. Japanese defensive engineers, aware of the Iwo Jima reports, tried to adapt digging deeper, creating water reservoirs, even lining tunnels with fire breaks, but nothing stopped the river of fire. Captured Japanese officers admitted later that they could not match the industrial and chemical supply chain behind the weapon. Daily operations on Iwo Jima alone had required 5,000 to 10,000 gallons of napalm-thickened fuel delivered through an intricate network of tankers, mixing plants, and pipelines stretching back to U.S. chemical plants. The scale of that support convinced many Japanese leaders that the United States could sustain such firepower indefinitely. The influence extended far beyond 1945. Korean War flame tanks, Vietnam-era napalm tactics, and even today's thermobaric munitions trace their doctrine back to the Mark I Navy flame projector first tested in Pearl Harbor's yards. Modern military manuals on tunnel and bunker warfare still cite the lessons of Iwo Jima liquid fire, used systematically, can strip defenders of both shelter and will. For Kuribayashi's underground army, the lesson was immediate and final. Industrial technology, when perfectly supplied and relentlessly applied, can turn even the strongest fortress into a death trap. By March 26, 1945, the battle for Iwo Jima was over. Of the island's 21,000 Japanese defenders, roughly 20,000 lay dead, and only 216 surrendered, a shocking break with the no-surrender tradition of earlier Pacific battles. American forces suffered 6,140 killed and nearly 18,000 wounded, but planners agreed that without the flame tanks, casualties would have been far higher. The black volcanic caves remain today, some still scarred with charred rock and fused stone, silent witnesses to the first large-scale use of mechanized flame. Military archives from tank battalion war diaries to chemical warfare test reports confirm that 8 flamethrower Shermans accomplished what entire regiments of infantry could not. Admiral Chester Nimitz summarized their impact. The flamethrowing tanks proved to be the most effective weapon for the reduction of Japanese cave defenses. Without them, our casualties would have been infinitely greater. General Holland Smith went further. The 8 flame tanks on Iwo Jima were worth a battalion of infantry. Yet victory carried a moral shadow. Marine chaplains recorded more counseling requests from flame tank crews than any other armored unit. Veterans later spoke of the haunting intimacy of liquid fire, its roar, its smell, the knowledge of what was happening inside the sealed tunnels. For the Japanese, the weapon represented something even deeper, the collapse of a strategy and a code. Kuribayashi's final intercepted message confessed that technology had overcome spirit. Warriors prepared to die by the sword instead fled from a weapon that seemed unstoppable and inescapable. The influence of those 36 days endures. Every modern doctrine for tunnel and cave warfare from Korea to Afghanistan owes a debt to the Mark I projector and the industrial might that fueled it. The flame tank proved that in the industrial age, victory belongs not only to bravery, but to those with the tools and supply chains to impose overwhelming force. Today, the island returned to Japan and known as Io-To stands as a stark monument. Beneath its quiet surface lie miles of empty tunnels, some still blackened from 1945, where liquid fire once flowed like a river and rewrote the very nature of modern combat.